Hello, Tom Maguire. Welcome back. The Art of Resilience by Ross Edgley. I've been meaning to do this one for a little while. We're all having to be a bit resilient at the minute, aren't we? We're all having to be a little bit resilient. It's pouring down up here with rain. I'm up at Asda. Plenty of people in there, no idea about personal space and COVID-19 and stuff. And looking in the papers at the beach is absolutely full of people that couldn't care less, got no respect for anything or anyone, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, yeah. Part of personal development is basically learning to let go of quite a lot of stuff and kind of not allow your emotions to rule you at all, and kind of accept that people will always be people, basically, and that no one's perfect, and that they will always have their opinions which you don't necessarily always agree with, and that's just life. And the more you kind of beat yourself up about that kind of stuff, and the more you let it do your own head in, the harder life's going to be, basically, and the harder you're going to find it to be successful. So you're far better off just kind of doing what Anthony Hopkins says and kind of expect nothing and accept everything, basically. But this book, The Art of Resilience by Ross Edgley, is absolutely fantastic. I did a preview a few weeks ago in the car. I had my boy in the back, so I had to do a quick rushed preview, and literally I just found out about it. I was out for a drive with him and I just found out about it. I was quite excited about it. And I waited until it came out on Audible because I was reading another book at the time. I've got a few books to review at the minute, actually, which I'm quite excited about. But yeah, I waited till it came out on Audible on the 18th. I listened to it in over the course of about 3 days. Really good, didn't disappoint at all. Resilience is something that I like talking about on this channel. It's really important when it comes to personal development. It's really important that we understand what resilience actually is. It's not about being macho, it's not about being a tough guy or having a stiff upper lip or any of that crap. It's actually about working on yourself and kind of exercising your resilience muscle, I suppose, in a way. And Ross Edgley talks a lot about being a scholar athlete, which is something that Plato said many years ago when he was making the point that it's no good being 100% philosophical and booky and kind of, you know, physically weak, and it's no good similarly being physically really strong and kind of aggressive and animalistic without having, you know, a brain in your head, basically. So Ross Edgley has taken that very kind of literally, and he's built himself up ridiculously strong and kind of, you know, physically robust, but he's also worked on his mind in terms of the stuff that he's read, stuff that he's studied. He's really into sports science. I think he studied sports science at university at Loughborough, as far as I can tell. I hope that's right. I said in the last preview that he was a Marine, but he wasn't, apparently. I don't know where I got that from. Anyway, I did a quick bit of research and I got it wrong. But anyway, my heart was in the right place. But really interesting story. He's basically the guy who swam around the coast of Britain, as you already know. Absolutely amazing feat. He talks about swimming through jellyfish, getting stung repeatedly in the face, his tongue falling apart with the salt water, something called salt tongue. And I will tell you in a little while something that happened to him that made it even more about resilience as far as I'm concerned, and actually made it twice as powerful when it comes to talking about resilience, basically. But that'll be a bit of a spoiler, so that'll be towards the end. So if you don't want to hear that, then don't listen to the end, but I'll probably yap on for a little while anyway. So whether I'll keep you till the end or not is kind of debatable anyway, but hopefully you will stay. If you do stay, or if you enjoy my videos, please feel free to give me a like or even a subscribe if you're feeling daring. That'd be really nice. It's nice to see those numbers go up a little bit. I'm not doing it for any kind of financial gain. Fortunately, I kind of do all right like that anyway in terms of my business and stuff, but I enjoy doing this, and it helps me remember the books that I've read a little bit, and it helps me concrete it in my head, I suppose, and kind of gets me used to talking about it when I'm doing the training and coaching and stuff like that, I suppose, as well, a little bit. But if you do appreciate them, please, yeah, feel free to show me that. And also feel free to comment in the bottom as well. If you want to tell me that I'm crap, that's absolutely fine. I can cope with that. I'm pretty thick-skinned. But if you want to tell me any books that you've got any ideas about that you want me to read and review, then I'm happy to look at that and give that a... That bloke's about to reverse into me, hopefully not. I'm happy to give that consideration as well, so please feel free to do that. But where was I? Ross Edgley, The Art of Resilience, yeah. So fantastic book. In between doing my preview and saying I was going to read this book, I read The World's Fittest Book, which is his other one. And there are similarities between that one and this one, in that he brings a lot of sports science into The Art of Resilience as well. He's got some really good advice. In fact, for someone like me who's kind of always been into fitness and has got quite a good understanding of fitness already, I could have kind of saved my time with and just not bothered with the world's fittest book and just read this one, to be honest, because this one gave me enough information that I didn't really already know to make it worthwhile. Whereas the world's fittest book is great if you don't have much knowledge, I suppose, already. I would highly recommend it. But if you already have a fair bit of knowledge, then this one is better, I would say. It's a much better story, obviously. It's a story as opposed to just being a fitness book as well. So his story is absolutely fantastic. You've only got to look at him on YouTube. You know, you can save yourself the time of reading or listening to the whole book if you want to, just by watching his stuff on YouTube. Another spoiler coming up, he met a basking shark at one point. He was worried about orcas, which luckily didn't happen. He had a minke whale swimming below him at one point. So really lovely stories. I personally would have liked to have heard a little bit more about his journey, I think, in a way. Although I suppose you might argue that there's only so much you can say about a swim when you're swimming 12 hours relentlessly day to day. And I'm sure there was a certain amount of him or aspect or side to him that was just quite kind of robotic and just getting on with it in terms of it being his daily job, because I suppose that was how he became so stoic and so resilient in a way, that he just literally just faced every minute, every day as, you know, just having to sort of get on with it and not really think too much about it, I suppose. So there he talks about the Stockdale paradox, which is something I haven't mentioned before on this channel, which is really good, particularly for nowadays with the difficulties that we're facing. So Stockdale was someone who was captured as a prisoner of war in Vietnam, and he made it through the other side, and so did a few others, and they wanted to know what made the difference between him and the people who didn't survive, basically. And pretty much in a nutshell, he was basically saying that the optimists, the people who were saying we'll be out by Christmas, obviously Christmas came, they weren't out. Oh, we'll be out by Easter. Easter came, they weren't out. They say the same thing the next Christmas, and he said eventually they just died of a broken heart because they were optimistic, but they didn't, you know, that optimism ended up killing them in the end. So he just basically says you have to maintain your faith, your absolute faith, your unwavering faith that you are going to make it through the other side, but you've got to concentrate on the here and now and accept accept your reality, basically. Which is what kind of Ross says in this book. He kind of says that he never really allowed himself to celebrate. He never really allowed himself to dream of getting to that finish line. He just took each day and each part. He knew deep down he was going to make it. There was no chance he was going to quit, but he just didn't allow himself to kind of have that optimistic sort of feeling. And I think that's quite an interesting one. That's worth thinking about when it comes to resilience. The other thing I want to say about resilience is it's all well and good being resilient when you have asked for the pain in your life. So when you've taken something on like this, a challenge like this, or climbing a mountain or whatever it is, if you've chosen to do it, that's one thing to be resilient there in that challenge that you push yourself to do. But it's a whole other thing to be resilient when something happens to you outside of your control. And this is the spoiler I was saying about. So you've had fair warning. His dad gets really ill at one point, and his brother tells him on the phone when he's on the boat, and obviously that's a real kick in the balls for him. That's a real kick in the guts, and he's terminal, and he's in hospital. So he still has a long way to go at that stage. So he has to carry on being as stoic, as resilient as he's already being. He's already at maximum, doing something as ridiculous as what he's doing, and he has to kind of remain even more resilient and not allow his emotions to overcome him, and get to the end, which for me really upped the resilient side of the book. When you know, to call it the art of resilience, if it hadn't have had that part in it, I probably would have been arguing actually that's not really 100% resilience to be doing something as crazily impossible as it is to swim around Britain. I have nothing but respect for that. To call that 100% resilience on its own, you could definitely argue he chose to do it. He's in a certain position of privilege to do it. He's got a team of people there, blah, 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 blah. You can say whatever you want, you know. I certainly couldn't do it. 99.9% of people couldn't do it. But actually, it's a whole other ball game being resilient when things happen to you that are really difficult. When someone becomes terminally ill or dies, or suddenly you're a carer, not getting paid, caring for someone. You've got to give up your job, and, you know, your life has just gone to absolute hell. That's being, you know, that's being resilient. So the fact that happened to him and he managed to carry on to the end, that's just, in my humble opinion, or my loud, arrogant opinion, you know, I think that's spot on, basically. So fair play to him. He deserves every accolade, every bit of respect. And I've been watching his videos and stuff. He's really motivated me in terms of my fitness. I've been doing fitness and nutrition and had a massive interest in that my entire life, basically. but he's really got me to kind of think outside the box a little bit and maybe push a little bit harder and try a few different things. I've always said the compound lifts are kind of really important, but I'm thinking now as I get older that I'm really going to concentrate more on those basic sort of lifts for my sort of core strength, overall strength really. And he's kind of saying how you can actually be a really good endurance athlete with a decent amount of muscle mass. So this idea of kind of bodybuilders being really sort of posy and pathetic, which to be fair, I often think when I go into the gym and I see these lads, you know, they look as though they're on steroids, they've got muscles on their whatever's tussles, and you look at them and you see them posing in the mirror, slapping each other on the back, and you just think, oh God, come on lads, do some proper exercise kind of thing. But actually I shouldn't judge, because you never really know, and that's what Ross Edgley looks like when you see him on paper. You sort of think, God, he's just a poser, but actually no, he's really taking it really seriously. He's pushed really hard. He's his own kind of physical sports science experiment, basically. No one's done it before. He's the first one to do it. So even though he was told he isn't the right shape to do it, he's done it. So fantastic. I'm going to stop talking now. I could keep going on. There's more I want to say about it. Oh yeah, don't compare yourself to people when it comes to personal development. Don't compare yourself to people like Ross Edgley, people on the extreme. There's always people on the extreme somewhere, whether they're at rock bottom or right at the top of their game. If you compare yourself to other people, you're completely wasting your time. You're just going to make yourself feel bad. You're far better off, as the great Jordan Peterson says, comparing yourself to who you were yesterday than comparing yourself to who someone else is today. If you play the comparing game, you're just going to be onto a loser. There's always going to be someone better than you at something, ahead of you at something, and even if you get to the top of your game for a certain amount of time, it won't last. You can guarantee that. So you need to remain humble and just try and better yourself day in, day out. And that to me is the lesson that I took from this book, is that if Ross Edgley can do something as crazy as that, and he's clearly been someone who has chipped away over the years, he's pushed himself to do uncomfortable things, he's pushed himself to do things that have scared him, and it's caused him to grow and grow and grow, and he's finally done this amazing thing, and maybe he'll do even more in the future now. That's obviously up to him, but yeah, hopefully he does, and hopefully he does another good book. But yeah, fantastic book, really rate it. You know, for personal development it's fantastic, for just pure entertainment it's fantastic. Great book.